One of the overlooked angles of the coronavirus is the economic side of this. Everybody's focused on this jibber jabber of sickness, getting the badunk-a-dunk, but not a lot of people are talking about the economic side of this. I've been highlighting the technocratic side of this, which you know is pretty clear if you follow my works, if you follow the recent videos and the globalism books talks that we've done. But not a lot of people have been talking about the economic side. A lot of these articles are pretty explicit about technocracy. In fact, there was just an article in Yahoo the other day talking about how this is going to revive the discussion about yang gang, universal basic income. Now, again, I've told you that universal basic income is what the global elite talked about 100 years ago. Bertrand Russell wrote in Impact of Science on Society and in Scientific Outlook that in the future, the system that would be in place would be a technocratic doling out of your credits, your weekly credits. He even talks about social credit system. H.G. Wells discusses the same thing. And so this is what we're seeing implemented now. At least they're being pretty open about discussing this topic. Part of what needs to be in place is the infrastructure to have a cashless society wherein you can have your social credits, your weekly dole. Not dolomite, the weekly dole. You're going to wish it was the period of dolomite within which you could do what you list, beat ass, and eat cookies afterwards. No. It's not going to be like that. You're not going to have a dolomite future. You're going to be a troglodyte on the dole. And so destroying or revitalizing, revolutionizing the economy is crucial to this. So I want to talk about some of those angles which are being overlooked. One of those is the notion of controlled collapse. If you've read books like Confessions of an Economic Hitman by Perkins, then you know about the way that the system is structured to trigger and to cause problems in certain areas by design. Controlled chaos. Brzezinski wrote about controlled chaos, right? Arc of crisis. And so crises are not just things that occur in the wars field, the battlefield in wartime, right? You can have controlled crises that are economic. You can have economic warfare. You can have trade war. But you can also damage economies. And this is not being done merely by incompetence. A lot of people are accepting the narrative that, that government incompetence. There are people higher than government. The people who created the internet. Do you think they're incompetent? Do you think the people who have structured the entire modern world are all incompetent? Do you think all the people at the Rand Corporation who built America into what it is, for good or for ill, you think they're incompetent? They're not incompetent. They run the world. 6,000 of the managerial class, according to Rothkopf. They're not incompetent. But government incompetency and mid-level, low-level incompetency is a great cloak for all sorts of evil genius manipulations. There are evil geniuses. I hate to tell you this, but they exist. And they literally float around on giant command and control yachts. Literally like Bond movies. Literally, quite literally. And I mean that very literally, in the most literal sense. So it's not wise to destroy the economy, right? Well, they're not going to make much money if they destroy the economy. Isn't the world run by rich people? At the tip top, it's not run by people who are interested in making money. There might be an advantage to making money on the side, but the plans that they have in place, what they would like to bring, are far beyond merely making money. They print the money. They can just put zeros into a computer and thereby add to the debt. They will print money. They will print money by just adding zeros in a computer. Right? Bernanke's hilarious quote But what we have to understand is the different phases to get to the end goal of the full-on technocracy mentioned in all these books that we've covered in the last 3 years. Things that need to come, like a totally cashless society. Well, one thing that a panicademic does is that it helps transition people over to a cashless society. That's what we're seeing with China now. In fact, I think it was Wuhan announced that they will be moving to a cashless society because this helps supposedly prevent, right? Microsoft has just patented their crypto, right? They want to have a crypto to compete in the crypto wars. I think we're going to see more of this in the future, big scale crypto wars. White papers like Mapping the Future. Data is huge in this because they want to be able to utilize everybody's GPS and cell phone data, right? Just like you saw in the movie Contagion with the Gwyneth Paltrow character, where she is tracked and traced on the basis of everywhere she went and all the purchases she made. Oh, then you see, we can figure out who was monkey patient 0 and was her vajayjay spreading the goop-scented STD known as coronavirus. This is really being discussed, right? They are really trying to bring this in. The companies right now are working on this, like Tectonics, reshaping data to utilize tracking and tracing to a degree that we've never even comprehended. And I think part of that requires the 5G being everywhere, right? The Internet of Things that Aaron and Melissa have covered so well. But as we said, reviving the discussion of universal basic income. If everybody made $1,000 or $500 a month, why couldn't we all just live on a government dole? On top of that, quantum dots. Why don't we just put everybody's medical record on a quantum dot? And you can get a little quantum dot right here. Get the quantum dot right here. They put the quantum dot in here. You ever seen Indiana Jones? So that, I think, is a big part of this. And in order to get to that end phase, we needed multiple phases of recessions, depressions, collapses. This also allows for select companies to get bailouts. Shocker, right? Select companies get bailed out. Select companies will get government partnerships during this period of lockdown. And what that will do is, I would imagine through actuaries, they have it planned to know how long it will take to shut down X amount of mom and pops, right? So if a 4-week shutdown is useful, perhaps that could slice out 30% of the mom and pops and smaller retailers that still compete with the giant box stores, the Amazons and so forth, right? I would not expect this bailout to actually be a bailout that, oh yeah, so maybe you get, $1,200 or whatever. Well, I remember right after the time of the Big 9 event, Bush mailed out like, I don't know, a few $100s to everybody. Those kinds of things. It's like when the mobster comes around and he gives everybody a chicken. I mean, mobsters give everybody chickens, and then you're supposed to, pay your protection money, pay your carbon tax. It's your protection money, right? So it was, who was it? Nassim Taleb. He wrote a good article on his Medium where he said what we're experiencing is corporate socialism, where the government is going to bail out investors and managers, but not the general population. And that's, I think, what you have these controlled and planned economic panicdemics, right? 2008 housing scam, that was a big scam. All these bailouts are giant scams that are, typically speaking, engineered. And one of the key ways that we know that is that you get signifiers before the big event of money moving, right? So before 9/11, you have the put options. And then you also have, I'm told, I've read, that on that day the Fed was overlooking, because of the panic, they waived regulations, and so a lot of money was moving secretly. The theory is, the analysis is. So I feel sure that that's probably true. A digital dollar a Microsoft dollar, right? That's what I think we're going to see out of all this. And just like we've seen in the past, right? These different attempts, Libra, right? They float these things, right? These ideas are floated. Jade Helm was floating the ideas of how the public reacts. How are we going to react in a giant crisis? Ideas are floated. They're tested to see how the public reacts. I think our present lockdown, if you want to call it that, all these different stages, these are ways to test and see where we're headed. And where we're headed is actually, I would say, outlined in a movie from 2003. It's a British dystopian film that's kind of boring. I mean, it's not the best film unless you like staring at the faces of women that look like men. The faces of women that look like men. That sounds like a movie title, doesn't it? Code 46. If you've not seen Code 46, it's been many years since I watched it, but my friend Chris brought it back to memory, because in that you have the people who are outside the smart cities. They're essentially banished, excommunicated, right, to wastelands. Inside, it's this supposed utopia, but actually find out that inside the smart cities, everything is based on an authoritarian sort of track and trace, dystopia, right? The bubble smart city that you thought was going to be ideal is not. It's based on like your DNA, and you're in a class structure, basically based on your DNA, and I think it's the chick that's like the Samantha Morton. Yeah, she's the main chick in that. And then just again telling us where they want to take us, right? Megalopolis, the BBC clips on the rationing of food. I think we're going through an exercise. That's my take on it right now. This exercise is essentially economic warfare and social engineering to prepare us for where they want to take us in the next phase of the implementation of the technocracy. And ultimately, the end goal of these bubble cities is Logan's Run, right? It's Code 46. It's not a utopia where you're just going to lay around and, sleep with whoever you want. It's going to be tracked and traced nightmare. It's going to be hellish. And so I think we have to reject these smart cities. We have to reject this stuff because it's a trap. And they're going to tell you things like, well, if you'll accept all the agreements to live in the smart city, you'll get like a stipend, you'll get the universal basic income. Won't it be so great? But no, right? You're going to have to accept a certain diet. You're going to have to accept essentially being a lab rat, essentially being a mouse in a cage. Is that how you want to live? Right? Do you want to live in Walmart? I don't want to live in Walmart. Do you want to live in Target? I don't want to live in Target. This is Jay Dyer from Day's Analysis, looking at the economic plan behind the Karunka. If you like this analysis, please like and share. You'll notice that, again, all the same patterns of people moving money, money exchanging hands, big hedge fund people talking about how it would be the end of the world. And then when the market drops, then they buy everything up, right? They short the market. It's not the conspirabloggers that are shorting the market like Jude Law. It's the people that run the country, right? This stuff is not government incompetence. It's a plan. And crises are very useful for these kinds of plans.